Oscar de la Hoya didn't mince words when asked about Ryan Garcia's next move. In a bold and pointed statement, he confirmed that Garcia is setting his sights squarely on a rematch with Rolando Romero. What's off the table? A second fight with Devin Haney. According to De La Hoya, there's absolutely zero interest in running it back with Haney. And it's not just about preference, it's strategic. De La Hoya believes Haney's reputation took a serious hit after his last fight on May the 2nd, where he narrowly defeated Jose Ramirez in a performance that left many fans underwhelmed. He called Haney a runner, implying that his style lacks the heart and fire fans expect from a main event boxer. For De La Hoya, the path forward for Garcia doesn't include chasing after a man who, in his words, didn't fight like a true warrior. He wants Garcia to go after Romero instead, the same fighter who handed him a painful loss earlier this month. That sentiment isn't just promotional talk. It reflects how both Garcia and Haney have struggled to stay compelling in the eyes of fans. The May 2nd event should have been a moment for both to shine, but neither walked away with overwhelming support. Garcia, coming off a year-long suspension due to a failed drug test, was expected to dominate Romero. Instead, he got caught early, looked mentally checked out, and never really recovered. Romero, often dismissed as limited in skill, suddenly looked like the better man in the ring. As for Haney, his defensive performance against Ramirez lacked the kind of grit and flash that fans crave. He won, yes, but it was a win that sparked more criticism than praise. This double disappointment has pushed De La Hoya to shift the spotlight back to a grudge match that fans can get behind: Garcia versus Romero 2. From De La Hoya's perspective, a Garcia-Haney rematch just doesn't make sense right now. Not commercially, not competitively, and certainly not emotionally. The storylines just don't align. Garcia needs redemption, not just another paycheck. And if he's going to win back the public's confidence, it has to come against the guy who exposed him just weeks ago. De La Hoya emphasized that Haney, despite winning, saw his stock plummet. Fans and critics alike accused him of being too passive, too defensive, too scared to take risks. Why would I want to see that again? De La Hoya asked rhetorically. He even referenced how some fans enjoy the technical, elusive style that Haney and fighters like Shakur Stevenson use. But he also made it clear those fans are a niche, not the mainstream. They don't drive pay-per-view sales, and they certainly don't light up the crowd. So, the plan, at least from De La Hoya's camp, is straightforward. Line up Garcia for a rematch with Romero and give fans a chance to see if King Rai can reclaim his crown. De La Hoya even went as far as to say that if he were in Garcia's shoes, he wouldn't hesitate for a second. He'd get his revenge, set the record straight, and remind everyone of what he's capable of. And to be honest, Garcia needs it. His performance against Romero was a far cry from the fearless fighter who dismantled Haney last year. That Garcia looked unstoppable, like a man on a mission. But the version that showed up in May looked distracted, disengaged, and unsure. If he's serious about getting back on top, he has to prove that Romero's win was a fluke, not a shift in power. There's also an underlying issue here that fans can't ignore. Despite all the talent Garcia possesses, there are real concerns about whether his heart is still in the game. Promoter Eddie Hearn recently suggested that Garcia's more focused on cashing big checks than chasing greatness. If that's true, it could explain why Garcia didn't seem all that eager to throw himself into a war with Romero. Maybe he thought he could cruise through the fight. Maybe he underestimated his opponent. Either way, it backfired. He was outboxed, outworked, and outclassed by someone he was supposed to beat. And now he's left with a choice: prove everyone wrong by going back into the fire, or take the easier path and chase a less dangerous payday. On the flip side, Devin Haney finds himself in an awkward position. He's been pushing hard for a rematch with Garcia ever since he lost to him. That loss clearly stung, and both he and his father Bill Haney have been vocal about wanting another shot. But now, with Garcia and De La Hoya showing no interest, Haney has to pivot. The problem is, who does he fight next? He can't keep padding his record with easy wins against fading veterans. That won't satisfy fans or justify the big purses he's gotten used to. Haney needs a real challenge, someone who can bring out the best in him and help repair his reputation. Because as things stand, his credibility is shaky at best. He got his tune-up fight with Ramirez. Now it's Time to step up and prove he belongs in the upper echelon of the division. De La Hoya didn't hold back when talking about Haney's style either. He said bluntly that Haney lost in winning, a brutal assessment that speaks volumes. The implication is that Haney, while technically skilled, lacks the kind of fighting spirit that captures attention and earns respect. Fans want to see a battle, not a chess match. And if Haney can't deliver that, he risks being relegated to the sidelines, no matter how many fights he wins on paper. That's the harsh reality of boxing in the modern era. It's not just about results, it's about excitement, storylines, and spectacle. What makes all this even more interesting is the role Turki Al-Sheikh might play in reshaping the narrative. As someone who's become increasingly influential in the boxing world, he could very well decide to throw his weight behind a Garcia-Haney rematch, regardless of what De La Hoya wants. If he believes there's still money to be made, and a compelling story to tell, he could orchestrate the fight, but that window is closing fast. If Haney continues to underwhelm and Garcia keeps looking disinterested, fan appetite for that matchup could fade entirely. The opportunity is there, but both fighters need to reignite the spark that once made their rivalry headline-worthy. The irony in all of this is how quickly public perception can shift. A year ago, Garcia was the comeback king, riding high after a dominant win over Haney. He was charismatic, aggressive, and seemingly unstoppable. But one flat performance later, and that shine has dimmed. The same goes for Haney, once hailed as a master technician, now labeled by some as a runner who doesn't engage. In boxing, narratives move fast, and redemption arcs can be just as fleeting as falls from grace. That's why the next moves for both fighters are so critical. A single great performance can change everything, but another dud? That might be game over for their time at the top. Right now, Garcia's best chance at reclaiming his status lies in the Romero rematch. It's personal, it's fresh, and it gives him a chance to show that he's more than just a social media star or a pay-per-view darling. It's about pride, legacy, and proving to himself and the world that he still belongs in the conversation. For Haney, the road is murkier. Without the Garcia rematch, he'll have to find a new rival to push him and elevate his name. The good news is, talent isn't the issue. Haney can box. The challenge is making people care again, and that means bringing more than just footwork and defense into the ring. The coming months will be telling. Fans will be watching closely to see what both fighters do next. Will Garcia take the hard road and avenge his loss? Will Haney silence the critics with a statement win? Or will both let this chapter of their careers slip away, undone by missed opportunities and cautious matchmaking? In a sport where every fight counts and every decision carries weight, neither man can afford to play it safe. The clock is ticking, and the spotlight is only getting hotter. And there's another angle that can't be ignored: ego. These aren't just fighters with records on the line. These are young stars with massive followings, huge social media footprints, and brands to protect. When someone like De La Hoya publicly calls out Haney as a runner and says the rematch doesn't make sense, it cuts deep. Haney and his team will feel that. It's a challenge, a rejection, and a bit of a slap in the face. So while De La Hoya might be trying to steer Ryan away from the rematch for business reasons, the personal side of this saga is still simmering. There's pride involved, and when pride's on the line, boxing has a funny way of bringing people back together, no matter how unlikely the matchup seems. What's also adding to the uncertainty is Ryan Garcia's unpredictable behavior in recent months. From emotional outbursts on social media to questions about his mental focus and commitment to training, the public image of Garcia has become a bit unstable. He's still wildly popular, and there's no doubt he puts eyes on a fight card. But if he's not all in mentally, it won't matter who he faces next. Fans are starting to notice the inconsistency, not just in the ring, but in how he carries himself outside of it. That creates pressure not just on Garcia, but also on his team and his promoters. If he turns down the Romero rematch and chases another fight purely for the money, the narrative around him could take an even darker turn. In the middle of all this, Romero is sitting in an interesting spot. For the first time in a long time, he's holding the cards. He's no longer the guy people laugh off or dismiss as a clown. He beat Ryan Garcia. That win, regardless of the circumstances, has elevated him, and he's going to want to capitalize on that.